So when the bomb went off, everybody, all the guys hit the floor. Instead of me hitting the floor, my reflex, I jumped out of my chair and I grabbed the wall. And once I grabbed the wall, mid-second later, I was seated on a big chandelier. And a second later, after I got out of my chair, that big chandelier fell and crushed my chair. Had I hit the floor like the rest of the guys, that chandelier would have crushed me. It would have killed me. One of the rescuers, the searchers, was down there. Well, they were coming from the basement. They said that they didn't find anybody down there, any bodies or anything, because they said no one could have survived the blast down there. And as the last one was coming up, he bumped against the wall. The couch was plastered against the wall, and he bumped against it. And that's when the couch fell, and that's when the little girls fell. And they were behind the couch. When I saw, the mother had described the dress that her daughter had on. That's how I recognized the little girl. And then when I saw the dress and I knew it was her daughter, I just started running. Well, I grew up in Louisiana, in a small town called Franklinton, Louisiana. It's about 40 miles out of New Orleans. And then I went to high school in New Orleans and graduated from Booker T. Washington Senior High School. From there, I entered Dillard University in 1959. Graduated from Dillard in '63. We were a very close family. It was, I'm the youngest of 7 boys, and I have 2 younger sisters under me. And but the sisters didn't grow up with me. My 6 brothers did. So it was quite interesting. Well, most of our brothers were out of the house when I came along. It was about 4 of my brothers, about 3 of them left in the house. Well, the rest of them were grown. But we were very close knit family. My mother used to make sure that we went to Sunday school all the time, and plus very active in the church in Louisiana, New Jerusalem Baptist Church. I had always sang in the youth choir in the church, and all the way through college, I was always involved in some activity that they were singing. And when I was offered the job as assistant minister of music, I was very happy because that just was right up what I wanted to do. Well, when I graduated from Booker T. Washington Senior High School, I really hadn't put in a thought that much in going to college, because finishing high school was an occasion in my family, because that meant I was the second out of my brothers to graduate from high school. But right after I graduated from high school, my 2 best friends who graduated along with me, Raymond and Willie, they had enrolled in Dillard University. And but one of my brothers asked me what was I going to do after I graduated. And I told him I wanted to go in the military like he did. He said, "No, you're not, you're crazy." He said, "If you don't enroll in somebody's school, you're gonna have some trouble with me." And I believed him. So my 2 best friends was at Dillard, so I went out there and enrolled. I didn't want to go to Southern University, because everybody was going to Southern University in Louisiana. So I decided to go to Dillard with my 2 best friends. My first 2 years, I didn't live on campus. I lived out in the city with my aunt, where I went to high school. And my 2 best friends was there, so we did the same kind of thing we were doing in high school in terms of social, so we were like a little fraternal group within our own, and plus I was a music major, and being a music major, you spend so much time with other students that are music majors, so you become one. So we were very close. Then going into my junior year, that's when I moved on campus, and that created a whole new life for me. That's when I got a chance to get to know and get close to many other students because by living on campus. Well, my senior year at Dillard, one of the requirements our department had required of us that we would send applications to different school districts throughout the country so we could have practice and doing that. It was not that we were actually seeking employment, but it was through practice. And but fortunately for me, I got a response from Birmingham, from the Jefferson County School District in Birmingham, and they were called and asked. They wrote and asked me to come for an interview, and I was making preparation to go to the March on Washington with Martin Luther King at that time, and plus my intention was to go to graduate school to Juilliard School of Music because I have a lot of experience with opera singing, and I wanted to further my career in opera singing. And but after I got the letter from Birmingham to come for an interview, plus I needed the money, so I decided to go for an interview. And once I went for the interview, I accepted the job. Well, they accepted me, and I accepted their offer. And so I came back home and made preparation to move up there instead of going to the March on Washington. Well, when I moved to Birmingham, I didn't know anyone there. I had just met the principal because I was interviewed by him, and plus the school superintendent for that area. So I didn't know anyone. I didn't know where to stay or nothing like that. So he offered me to live with he and his family, and their home was adjacent to the 16th Street Baptist Church. So and he was a deacon in the church. And so he invited me to join. So it was very convenient for me because it was right there. So I joined. And once I joined, I accepted the offer of being the assistant minister of music for the church. Well, that particular morning, my principal was a deacon at the church, as I stated. And each Sunday, a different deacon had responsibility of being over the devotional part of Sunday school. This was his Sunday to be over the devotional part of Sunday school. And since he was my boss, he asked me to sing a solo to open up the devotional part of Sunday school. So I accepted that offer, and instead of every Sunday I would walk to the church, go down in the basement around 10 o'clock, and spread my music on the couch where the little girls were sitting. And that's where I would always be. But I didn't go down there that Sunday because I sang a solo to open up Sunday school. Since I was upstairs in the main sanctuary at that time, I decided to go on the third floor to the male Sunday school class rather than going downstairs it was kind of early for me to go downstairs at that point. So I went to Sunday school that Sunday. That was my first time going to Sunday school. And by going to Sunday school that Sunday, it really saved my life because once I got up on the third floor at about 10:20, that's when the bomb went off. And in my class, the male class, most of the men there had military experience. So their reflection through their training, when a bomb occurred, you hit the ground. I did not have that kind of experience because I had never been to the military. So when the bomb went off, all the guys hit the floor. Instead of me hitting the floor, my reflex, I jumped out of my chair and I grabbed the wall. And once I grabbed the wall, mid-second later, I was seated on a big chandelier. And a second later, after I got out of my chair, that big chandelier fell and crushed my chair. Had I hit the floor like the rest of the guys, that chandelier would have crushed me. It would have killed me. That was that big. And that moment, for my getting out of my chair, grabbing the wall, saved my life. So much bombing had been going on in that community at that time in different churches and home, particularly the homes in a particular area called Dynamite Hill, a lot of bombing. So people were very much alert in terms of bombing and how the bomb sounds. And immediately that came to everybody's mind. It's a bomb. It had to be a bomb to rally the church that way. And so once we managed to get downstairs on the ground level, it was so many people had gathered so quickly, and the Birmingham Police Department was there. We don't know how they got there so fast. But anyway, what we call bumper-to-bumper traffic, it was bumper-to-bumper people there. And a young man was talking to me, and he asked me what happened. And as I was explaining to him what happened, the police supposedly shooting in the air to manage the crowd. One of the bullets came right between us and took off half it, his earlobe. And I saw the blood running down, so I just started running. And I jumped the fence over to the property where I was living. And I had to call my mother because I knew this was going to be on national television, and I wanted to let her know that I was okay. So I called her to explain to her what happened. She wanted me to come home. She said, come home. And I told her, I said, Mama, I can't run from it because it was happening so much all over the South, certain things were happening. So I told her I just have to face whatever was going on. On the Sunday that the church was bombed, September 15, 1963, the bombing was not supposed to occur at that Sunday as we understood it, as we found out later. It was supposed to have had occurred the Sunday before, and the reason being, a concert pianist was giving a concert at the church on that Sunday, and a lot of your middle class professional black people were going to be gathered together at that one place for that concert, and that's when they were supposed to have done the bombing. But something happened, we don't know what happened, that changed their mind, that stopped them from doing it. So rather than them doing it then, they did the following Sunday, which was the 15th. Where it was done through investigation by the Ku Klux Klan and George Wallace and his group. My principal's wife, one of her friends, she would always come on Sundays and visit her. I think they worked together, and she was a librarian for her school. My principal's wife was also a principal. And so she asked me had I seen her little girl, because she dropped her off, but she didn't go to Sunday school that Sunday. She dropped her off, and she was going to pick her back up after church, because she was planning something after church for her daughter. That's why she didn't come. And she asked me if I would help her, because she couldn't get in the crowd because it was roped off. So I told her I would jump the fence and go look for her. And once I jumped the fence and made my way to the entrance where I used to go into the church in the basement, it was all blown apart. And when I got there, one of the rescuers, the searchers, was down there. Well, they were coming from the basement. They said that they didn't find anybody down there, any bodies, anything, because they said no one could have survived the blast down there. And as the last one was coming up, he bumped against the wall. The couch was plastered against the wall, and he bumped against it. And that's when the couch fell, and that's when the little girls fell. And they were behind the couch. When I saw, the mother had described the dress that her daughter had on. That's how I recognized the little girl. And then when I saw the dress and I knew it was her daughter, I just started running. I didn't know how to face her, to tell her that unthinkable news about her daughter. The rest of the day, I really can't recall what happened. I was just out of it. It was difficult. One of the things that President Kennedy did, he protected us by deputizing the National Guards to the Alabama National Guard, the same guards that was under Wallace control, Governor Wallace. Uh, what happened was the Ku Klux Klan had found out that the FBI was questioning most of us that was in the church that Sunday, and they sent out a threat. If we talked to the FBI, they were going to kill us. So that got back to Kennedy, and that's when he deputized the National Guard, the Alabama State Guards, and they were outside of our homes every night for about 6 months. You couldn't tell they were there because they were dressed in plain clothes, and they were guarding our homes. My sense of security was shaken. But you learn to function. You couldn't let that just sit you down. You had to just move through life as though you had something to do. You were not going to let that stop you. So you move with a sense of purpose, yet you're so very aware of your surroundings, particularly at night and going out. No, in November of that year, right before Thanksgiving, that's when President Kennedy was assassinated, and he seemed to have been our only hope at that time. And once he was assassinated, it looked like to me all hope was gone, and it just turned my life upside down at that point. And after that, immediately after that school year ended, it was quite a bit for me as a first-year teacher, just coming out of college, first time really away from home, and having to face all of that. It was rough. I resigned my teaching position from there and moved back to Louisiana, and I started teaching there. In a small town called New Road, Louisiana, right out of Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And that summer, after I worked there for 1 year, we moved out to California for vacation. And believe it or not, we ended up right in the middle of the Watts riots. I don't know if that was one of the first big riots in the country during that time. And I said, oh my God, I thought I was going away from that, and we ended up right into another situation. But that was after I worked in Louisiana for a while, then I started working in the French quarters in hotel management. And I did that because I had resigned teaching and started working management in hotels in the French quarters. And then after I decided to move to Miami, my wife is from Florida. So after we decided to move back here, that's created a whole new situation, new life for me. But I had never talked about being in the church bombing to no one. The only people knew about it was people that was really close to me at the time. But other people that I met, I never talked about it. So when I moved here, about 10 years after Martin Luther King was assassinated, they were doing a special on his life. And part of that special, they had the church bombing and him eulogizing the little girls. When I saw that on television 10 years after, I exploded. That was the first time I was able to cry. It was on 6 o'clock news, and I looked at it, and I looked at the images of the church bombing, and I just lost it. The body has a way of protecting itself, and I couldn't. It had buried itself somewhere in my heart, and to make me able to function. And so I was functioning all these years with all that emotion buried. And when I saw it on the image 10 years later, it just came out. just came out, I just exploded. I just started screaming. I was home by myself. My wife and the kids had not gotten home that evening. And my neighbor next door had to come and they had to come and take care of me. That relieved me. Had I not exploded, I think all that emotion, I think it would have killed me, because I don't think my body could have taken it, my mind, my heart could have taken it. As I look at what's going on today, in my heart I have the same kind of feeling that I had back then. I grew up in an era where white people would spit on you. You walking down the street, the white man was coming, you had to get off the sidewalk to let him pass. He couldn't go around you, you had to step off the sidewalk to let him pass. You couldn't go to the front of a restaurant. You had to go to the back if you worked there to enter. You couldn't go to a store and try on a pair of shoes. You had to bring a cardboard cutout with your foot size to put in there to get the right size, because you couldn't fit your feet in shoes in the store because you were black. I could cite so many things that Jim Crow brought about to us, yet we survived it. I do know there's hope, because I got through that back then, and this too shall pass into another level. It might blossom out into something different later, but I think we too will, we as a people, we have always managed to move forward no matter what blockage was thrown in our way. So I look at this as another roadblock that we will make the detour and get back on the main highway. When I first went back, I think it was in '97, that was when Spike Lee had just put out the documentary on the Foley Girls. And what they did before premiering the documentary, they tried to round up all of the people that they could that was in the church that particular day to come to the premiering of the Foley Girls. So they found me way down in South Florida. And I flew to Birmingham for that premiering of the, and it gave me the opportunity to be able to sit with the families again, and church members, and then sit in the theater where it was being premiered, that we couldn't even go during that time. But now we had the whole whole theater. I think that's the thing that really brought me forward in a way, in a very powerful way, because I was able to shed tears watching the documentary. All of us in the church, all of us there sitting there watching the documentary crying, and that was healthy crying. It was healthy crying. Had I been sitting on that couch, I would have been just another black man dead. It wouldn't have gotten the kind of response from the community nationally and locally as those poor little girls who were sitting on the couch. I would have just been another black man dead. So for that reason, I did not feel guilty. I felt sad because of the little girls, the life that they had to give up to help move the movement forward. I look at all of this, when I see everything happen, that God has a plan. He's kept me here for some reason. Those young girls' life was sacrificed, but their spirit and soul are still alive in me and so many of us. And that kind of spirit keep me going.